In the top stories, CFBC Research Conference underscores the importance of evidence-based practice in nursing. Trinidad and Tobago to strengthen its child protection systems, and U.S. COVID deaths pass 1 million. Hello and welcome to the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Today is Friday, the 13th of May, 2022. I'm Jason Davis. Nationally, the Clarence Fitzroy Bryant College, or CFBC, is continuing to make strides in its advancements as an educational institution with the opening ceremony of a research conference on Tuesday. Presenter at the opening ceremony, Chief Medical Officer Dr. Hazel Laws, spoke about the importance of the research conference and, in particular, the effect of evidence-based practice in nursing. She said there are three main components of evidence-based practice, which are the utilization of the best external evidence, the integration of this information with the nurse's clinical expertise, and consideration of the patient factors. She also said the nursing students must possess competencies and skills to appraise the literature and evaluate its validity, then implement the most current, clinically relevant, and scientifically sound research in their work. Dr. Laws also stated that some benefits of evidence-based practice to the field of nursing are that it ensures that the needs of patients are prioritized in the delivery of care, it facilitates better patient decisions, it helps nurses apply validated interventions, which are key components of exceptional patient care, and it helps keep nursing practice current and relevant. Commissioner of Police Hilroy Brandy has applauded Inspector Rosemary Iles Joseph on her recent recognition as the 224th Commonwealth Point of Light. Inspector Iles Joseph was named for the award for her work founding and expanding the Explorers Youth Club movement. It is given by Prime Minister of the United Kingdom to people who are making a change in their community. In a release from the police force, Commissioner Brandy was quoted as saying, "She has done a tremendous amount of work, along with her team, to build out the explorers groups around the island, and recently in Nevis. It's always good when people are recognized for doing good in the community. The Explorers program needs to keep hundreds of the nation's youth positively engaged, and our officers have been willing to help keep them on the right path." End quote. The commissioner added that he hoped the award would give her motivation to continue. In other news, St. Kitts and Nevis and the Republic of Cuba celebrated 27 years of diplomatic relations on Monday. To mark this occasion, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Aviation, in collaboration with the Embassy of Cuba, will be organizing a number of activities throughout the month of May to strengthen bilateral engagement. Both countries enjoy a bond that is premised on shared values, one that has produced fruitful cooperation, especially in the areas of health and education. St. Kitts and Nevis has benefited from the deployment of medical practitioners under the Cuban Medical Agreement, while the capacity of St. Kitts and Nevis medical profession is being greatly enhanced as citizens are afforded annual opportunities to pursue tertiary level studies under the Cuban government scholarship program. Multilaterally, both countries have supported each other in response to challenges presented by the COVID-19 pandemic. St. Kitts and Nevis was one of several CARICOM states to donate medical supplies to the Cuban government in 2021. Based on the shared history and common culture between St. Kitts and Nevis and the Republic of Cuba, both countries continue to explore opportunities for continued and increased cooperation. We now move to news on the regional scene. Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Keith Rowley, says the government will continue to fund the Children's Authority, even in the wake of a damaging report that reveals cases of child abuse were found at several children's homes. More in this report.
Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley says the government will continue to fund the Children's Authority, even in the wake of a damning report that reveals cases of child abuse were found at several children's homes. The report by retired Justice Judith Jones, which looked into the management of children's homes during the period July 2021 to December 2021, was laid in the Parliament on April 29th by Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister, Ayanna Webster-Roy. At Thursday's post-cabinet media conference at the Diplomatic Center, the Prime Minister said while the findings of the report are disheartening, government is satisfied that the objective was met.
We assure the population that as a government, we remain resolute in this objective and with the support of all stakeholders, will continue to ensure that continuing action is taken to strengthen the country's child protection systems in keeping with our national and international commitments.
According to the report, many of the facilities looked into were unlicensed. The Prime Minister said the government notes the calls in the public domain for the closure of some homes, but the government is committed to providing the necessary resources to ensure the well-being and upkeep of the children.
While we understand the emotions that ran high when the matter was laid in the Parliament, we also understand the political aspect of it from those who seek to make political mileage out of it and to call for the government to stop feeding the children and to stop funding the agency. That is just not a sensible way.
In Antigua and Barbuda, a cultural showpiece was one of the highlights of the official media launch for the Ministry of Creative Industries and Innovation on Thursday. The launch and mini fair took place at the ministry's offices on Old Parham Road. Jessica Russell reports.
The Ministry of Creative Industries and Innovation launched today with a bang.
The ministry, which was newly formed last year after the reappointment of Dr. Michael Brown as a cabinet minister, launched, well, creatively.
I hush, because me want to hear everything. Because me give up a new ministry, and me want to walk one.
The name of the ministry had to have been etched in the minds of attendees of the event after a dub poem by ordained General Scotty Doyley had them chiming in.
Say it loud. MCII. What is that? Ministry of Creative Industries and Innovation. It is the Ministry of Creative Industries and Innovation.
These all fall under the umbrella of MCII.
Music, art, theater, craft, photography.
I would introduce a person in charge, but a Calypsonian at the event can do a better job than I can.
We all must congratulate the minister on his doctorate. Show your voice, never far. Welcome, the minister.
The Ministry of Creative Industries is the ministry that we are in a position to support the creative juices as expressed from your mind and help you to parlay them on the public stage, while at the same time providing the support to create and generate economic activity.
Dr. Brown says there's much that can be expected from the creative industries, otherwise known as the orange economy. The ministry will launch its biggest event, Carnival 2022, next week. Jessica Russell, ABS News.
Internationally, the United States has passed 1 million deaths in the COVID-19 pandemic, the worst death toll of any country. Al Jazeera talked to one American whose family was ravaged by the virus and found herself living alone. Meanwhile, scientists ponder what lies ahead for the pandemic as mounting evidence points towards a coronavirus that will be part of our lives for a long time to come. Al Jazeera's Bob Reynolds reports.
In March 2020, Lucy Esparza Casares got sick. She quickly recovered from the headache and chills, but soon her husband David was feeling very ill, coughing and unable to stand. He was rushed to a hospital. Lucy was not allowed to see her husband, and soon a nurse called to say David was being put on a ventilator.
She said, okay, so we're ready to do the procedure, so I'll let you talk to him one more time. So, you know, it was like, okay, I love you, everything's going to be all right. He said, okay, I love you too. And that was the last conversation I had with him.
David died from COVID-19 in early April. In quick succession, Lucy lost more members of her family, her sister-in-law, a nephew, and David's elderly mother, whom she cared for.
All of a sudden, I was alone. I'd never been alone in that house, ever, by myself. With my dog, me and my dog, in this house, where everybody that lived here except me died of COVID.
By then, the pandemic was completely out of control. In a New York hospital, 13 patients died in a single day. But the worst was yet to come. Hospitals were overwhelmed. Morgues ran out of space for the dead. The country shut down. Why did the wealthiest, most technologically advanced country on earth suffer such a staggering death toll?
I think the jury is still out on exactly what caused so much death. There's a recent study that came out that showed that about 40% of the deaths of the patients who died with COVID had diabetes.
By the time safe and effective vaccines became widely available, misinformation and conspiracy theories were circulating.
The parallel epidemic of disinformation, misinformation has complicated matters tremendously, really unnecessarily.
Former President Trump downplayed the severity of the outbreak from the beginning. The federal government left it up to each state to figure out for themselves how to find medical equipment and protective gear.
The ineptness of it was boggling, mind-boggling. How did this happen in the United States of America?
The virus took advantage of poverty, racial, and economic inequities in American society. The COVID death rates for blacks and Latinos have been twice that of whites. How will the pandemic evolve in the coming years? Predicting the virus's behavior is notoriously difficult, but doctors are sure of one thing: COVID isn't finished with us yet.
Its penetration has been such that it will be around us for forever. It's not going to go away.
1 million dead and counting. Rob Reynolds, Al Jazeera, Los Angeles.
In response to rising prices in Tanzania, the government has put in place several measures, including a fuel subsidy. More in this France 24 report.
In response to soaring prices in Tanzania, the government has implemented several measures, including a fuel subsidy. Dodoma also wants to make lemons into lemonade. It plans to cash in on those rising prices by boosting its own oil and gas sector.
We have defined our management strategy for our national petroleum reserves, and the amendments to the law are complete. We will implement oil subsidies in the near future, and we will also begin on building oil export facilities.
One of the projects that could benefit is the construction of an onshore LNG plant in the southeastern town of Lindi, after several false starts over the years. The facility would create thousands of jobs. Another potential cash injection could come from the IMF and the World Bank. Dodoma has requested funds from both. The loans would be used to cap prices on everyday products. This, as many Tanzanians struggle to make ends meet.
So the problem is taxes. And why is Tanzania demanding the government to reduce the tax as soon as possible, as much as they can, so as to rescue the situation, because citizens in the entire Tanzania, we are in struggle. We are struggling the crisis. We are facing crisis, economic crisis.
Even without the oil price spikes linked to the war in Ukraine, Tanzania was already in dire straits. 1 in 10 Tanzanians live below the food poverty line, and a third of children are chronically malnourished.
And now for the weather. Current conditions are partly cloudy. The temperature for today is 30 degrees Celsius or 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Winds are east at 12 to 20 miles per hour with possible gusts of up to 31 miles per hour. Seas are moderate with waves of 4 to 7 feet. A small craft caution is in effect for open waters on the eastern side of the islands. The weather forecast in St. Kitts and Nevis for today will be partly cloudy and breezy with a 70% or high chance of passing showers. Tonight will be partly cloudy and breezy with a 40% or moderate chance of passing showers. Sunset today will be at 6:35 p.m., sunrise tomorrow at 5:40 a.m. And that brings us to the end of the ZIZ Midday newscast. Join us this evening for these stories and more in detail. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Jason Davis.